The next project will be the drawing for the coupling assembly. So open up your PDF, and we're going to be doing the coupling drawing. Do a few views, different types of things, and open up your assembly, your coupling assembly. And that's in session when you open it up. Also make sure you've changed your tree filter so that everything's showing in the model tree and the drawing tree. And after it's in session, you can close it, and we will start a new drawing. I would uncheck the default template because the views they give you aren't that appropriate. And we'll go to a D-size drawing. Right mouse button, and we will insert a general view. If you created a combined state for the assembly, then you can use that. Remember, follow the steps in lesson 12 when you create the assembly for the coupling. And we'll pick someplace, and then what we're going to do is we're going to find a position for it. You can see that I've saved a few different things, but none of these are really appropriate. I'm going to use the geometry preferences, and I'm going to click on something I want to face towards the front. So I'm going to click on this, and then something that faces towards the top, like so. Now you can reverse this too. In the book, I think we have it reversed. It really doesn't make any difference, whichever way you want to do it. And then you position that where you want it to go. Let's unlock it. Put it in the middle here. I'm going to change the scale to 0.5, so double click down here on the scale. And I think that's probably okay. It still seems a little bit small. We'll keep it at this size right now. And insert a projection view. You might want an end view. You might want an end view on the other side. If you do that, then that original size here of 0.5 is probably better. And let's insert a projection view on the top here and on the bottom. Excuse me. All right. So since we were following the view environment of shading with edges, we really wanted these to be hidden line instead. There's a couple ways to do it. Obviously, you can double click on the view and go into view display to change it. Here it's following the environment. If you want it to stick on this particular one, so that option, I'm going to select all of it. Shouldn't have done it that way. Go back to my layout. Capture the three views, properties, and view display is the only one that's an option here because we've got multiple views selected. And I'll go to hidden line, and let's go to dimmed for tangency for right now. You can change each view individually, of course. And we want to shut off all these datum features because they don't mean anything on a drawing. They're not center lines. It confuses people sometimes, but that is not a center line. Those are axes. All right. So we got, looks like all the views are similar, obviously, and we're going to change those up. Let's, if you wanted to change to your format, we can do that. But I think before we do it, we'll just work with our views. Maybe move the view over a little bit here. Because when we go to the format, we're not going to go directly to the ASME formats, standard formats. We're going to go to the format that we saved when we did lesson 8, 9, 10, and 12 in the book. And they give you the information on how to put parameters in every single part. If we look at that, look at any part, let's just open up one of the parts. And I think I'll shade that. And let's go to Tools, Parameters. And these parameters were input as per the book. Now again, you follow the book for lesson 12, and you'll see that you have every one of your components with different parameters, same parameter name though, but different parameters, the value, and these get read into the assembly drawing when you want to fill in the title block and the bill of materials. So this all has to be done to each one of your components as per lesson 8 and lesson 12 in the textbook. So all of that's done beforehand. So if you do that correctly, and then you go and you select your, I'm going to go to my working directories. Let's go to where I have my lesson 12 format stored and select that one. And you will see we have our bill of materials filled in for the assembly. All right, you can see it's an E size also. So here's a situation where we go back and we can change our scale probably to 1. And we have our 4 views. I'll move this one out of the way a little bit. All right. So we got the views we need. Basically what we can do is we can go and see what sections are available for each one of them. You can see these are at 90 degrees, the 2 views. So let's start down here, double click, go into sections, 2D section plus, and section B is appropriate for this particular situation. And you know, if you open this all the way up, this is one way to do it. You can click on arrow display and you can click in the view you want that arrow to be in. So you have your section and then you have your section arrows. And let's try the one on the top here and go into properties, sections, 2D, and oh, B is, I shouldn't have done that, I knew it. It was the middle one we wanted. (2D) plus section A is available. Apply. Close. You can also get the add arrows right mouse button here. And we have section AA. So we've got our sections and we've got our view here. If we want to get rid of the hidden lines in this one up here, we can. Like so. In fact, in this one here, I think we'll also get rid of the tangent edges. There, that looks better. Okay, so we have that view, section A. Let's look at it. So we want to alter this a little bit. We can see the, can't see the cut through the socket head cap screws or the nut here. So there's some things we may want to take out. Let's double click on here and let's go to our sections and let's do a local section. So I'm going to click on a place where I want the section to be centered for my, not really centered, but the area I want to have inside, the point I want to have inside of my spline. And we'll apply that. Close. And let's go and change the sectioning. And on this one here, I think the spacing we want to make it a little bit smaller. It's a very big view, so you don't want to put the lines too far apart. Your choice here. And we'll keep the angle the same on that one. Go to next. And on this one here, we can show the hatching, but spacing. And we may want to change the angle. Go to next. And this is a solid standard part, and a lot of times you can fill that instead of, for some reason I'm not getting that one. No, it doesn't want to fill it. Let's try spacing it. No, it won't take fill. Interesting. Alright, so we'll leave it at that angle. Next one here, this one we're going to have to change our angle first. And on our spacing, double it, half it a couple times. Probably want to change the first one again. And here we have our shaft. Now on this one here, let's exclude this and see what happens. Now let's leave it sectioned. Let's leave just this portion sectioned. All right, next. And this one here, we might want to change our spacing again. All right, done. So let's double click on this one and let's change the hidden line into no hidden. Apply, close, and that's a lot more clear. Now a lot of times you want to clean up a view and you don't want to show everything. It's old drafting practice. You get a little edge here. If you wanted to go to edge display and erase line, you could actually take out some things that you feel aren't adding to the clarity of the view. It's drafting standard practice. To make it a little clearer. You're not seeing much. In fact, you could take all of this out and it really wouldn't hurt. Would not be inappropriate. So let's go to our front view here. And actually, let's start off with the sectioning. And here we've got the key. You can fill it. And we've got the end of a solid round part, and that's allowed to be filled also because it's standard. And the nut here, let's exclude that. Socketed cap screw, let's exclude. This is standard practice. And here we want to change our hatching. And we'll keep the same angle. Next we have the nut. And again, we could exclude that one. And the washer we could fill. And the hatching here, we will change the angle and the spacing. Then we have the shaft, and we're going to leave that sectioned also. Actually, let's exclude this one. Done. And let's go into our display and make it no hidden. All right, that's pretty good. And while we're at it, let's go up to the top because we really didn't see everything in that section down here, section BB. So let's put another section in. And let's make this a local section. Just take this portion of the spline. And we could actually go and make it a partial view. Local section partial view. All right. And we can change the section in here also. That looks pretty good. And you have 3 different configurations, and you can experiment with this: partial view, local section. You can combine them. The only thing really left here excuse me, is the annotations we want to put some center lines on. Now the problem with this, of course, is that there's an awful lot of center lines, and the only one you want is the one down the middle here, which is sometimes kind of hard to find, actually. And we don't really need it in this one anyway. I shouldn't have even bothered, because we've got the cutting plane. All right, so let's go and look here. And again, we really don't need one here because you don't want to show the center lines for the nut and the socket head cap screw. How about in the front view here? Oh, we have a ton of them again. And again, you're going to have to filter through them because you do not want to put them all on. You put them all on, then you got to go back and get rid of them all. You can see how many extra ones there are on here. They run all kinds of directions. There's ones that you just don't need. And sometimes you'll find that underneath there's more. So it isn't as if you're going to get them all in one shot. You've got a ton of them in here. So I would make sure you just turn on the ones that you need, which is the one through here and the one down the middle, because there's no section line going through here. So again, you can actually put your filter on, datum axes, and you can see you can collect them. And even when you do it that way, you have ones underneath. Should have just deleted them all. You don't need them ever. But you can see how many there are. Right, I got them all. All right. So the last thing to do is to show your bill of materials, all the balloons from that. So you go to the Table tab, Create Balloons All, and then move things around so that you're using the views appropriately. You got one over here, number 1. Could move it to another view. I would go to the front view with this one. And then where everything show up the best, that's where you want to move them. So for instance, if you want to move the you can see where they go to might not be appropriate either. This is number 8. Number 8 says cotter pin. Well, I moved it to this view. Wasn't a good idea. You're not going to see. I thought it would go up here. It did not. So I'm going to move it back and then deal with it up there. So what you want to do is spend some time moving everything to the view that it shows in. You can look here, this is the key, for instance. The key doesn't show up at all in the top view, and that's number 7. And so move it to the front here, and it looks much better. So you're going to be moving these around to the view that are appropriate. You can change the size of the text. And let's make the height point, I don't know, let's go 0.35. And the font, let's change it to Blueprint, just to give it something different. A little too big, obviously, here. And then if you have to, you're going to have to change the size depending on what you're doing here, but you can change the width of each one of the table columns. Or you can change actually the width also. I won't do all the changes. You can see my balloons became a lot bigger. They look a lot better. And again, move them around to an appropriate place on the drawing. Now you want to add another sheet and put it in another view, and it's up to you whether you not want to do the title block here with the bill of materials. Title block is going to be but the bill of materials. And we'll insert a default view. And this is something you should have done when you were in the model. I think we didn't create anything. We can use the default, and then we can change the view. It's not too bad. And again, depending on what you want to do with the bill of materials, whether you not want to show it on this one also or not. And same way with the balloons. If you're going to show the balloons, you can use this instead of the other view. And of course, move the balloons around. You can clean up the balloons if you want to do it that way. Just guessing at the numbers. So clean them up, and again, you can go and you can change the style that you're pointing at with. Instead of an arrow, it can be a dot at the end if you're going to this actual surface. And double click on the view itself. You can go to View States, and you can actually go into customize the explode state here. And we'll use Entity Edge and maybe turn on the axes. And I'll pick the axes for the movement. And you can move things around a little bit. I'm not saying I'm doing a great job, I'm just showing you how to do it. So you can adjust individual. You can move with children also. Preferences, move with children. And you can get it to be pretty much what you want. You can also tweak on it with the type here. go with angles. And if you want to change the angle, let's say I'm going to go very small here. You can tweak on the angle of the whole view that way. So make slight corrections when you're in the drawing for the assembly, but I wouldn't do a lot of the work. Most of it I think should be done in the assembly model. Assembly model, that's an easier way to adjust it. So now you have two views, or two sheets. And that's the end of the coupling drawing project.